Hi, everybody, and welcome again to Emotional Intelligence and Career Transition with myself, Denise Sparkleson, Emotional Intelligence Coach, and Dr. Tara, who is your career transition mentor. So I'm going to start off with asking Dr. Tara and getting her to introduce today's topic. It's going to be really interesting. Just stay tuned. Tara, over to you.
Yes, thank you as always. This is an interesting topic, one that we've had some offline discussion about, and it is how can you use emotional intelligence to navigate job offers, salary negotiations, and other things in that interviewing process. And before you can really, my perspective is before you can really dive into this topic, it's important to understand why is important to be able to leverage EI. And many times we don't think about the why before we jump into doing things or even having discussions. And I think that it's really important to understand how to use EI when you are in an interview process, because ultimately you are selling yourself. You are selling your skills, your abilities, your experience. All of those things are why you're at the table, but also why you're in that final step, I would say, of receiving an offer. And the EI that stands out the most is communication. And when you think about communicating, it's important that you communicate essentially what it is that you are bringing and how those skills, abilities, and experience are tied to or connected to the salary range offer that you are requesting. And being able to really communicate your value in those things. And the more effective communicator you are, the better the outcome in most cases. And so many times we take for granted, or we may even be apprehensive about asking for this particular amount. Maybe I'm not sure that I'm worth that or that I can bring that type of value. But in job offers, whether that's offers negotiations, it's really, really important to be clear about what your expectations are and how you will meet the needs of the organization. Because keep in mind, you are the interviewee, but as an interviewer, they're sitting on the other side of the table listening to your request, but also what they're seeking to know is how you're going to meet the needs of the organization or even meet them where they are based on what you're bringing. And so I was just start with it's really important to have effective communication in that process. The other thing I would say, as far as understanding why, is in the decision making process, because ultimately, they have to make a decision as the organization, but you also have the room and autonomy to make a decision, whether that's yes or no, to accept the offer. But keeping in mind, because I don't think that, at least for myself, I never really made the connection that it was, that I'm leveraging my EI behind the scenes and making a decision about the offer. Because the offer is not just based on that interview, which I believe many times those of us who may not have been interviewing a lot, or not in HR and in other industries, there's so many other factors that play into the offer and what they're going to offer and what you're asking for. And so being able to make a decision that aligns with your long-term goals, with the value that you know that you bring to the organization, again, with your skills, abilities, and experiences is really important. And so those are the two areas that come to mind for me, first and foremost, when you are really considering how or why you should use EI in that salary negotiation or offers process.
Mm.
Denise.
Yeah, thank you, Tara. And, the how, the why, I'm going to bring forward a what to bring forward. And one of the emotional intelligence traits that a really good friend of mine talked to me about that she uses now, she is one of the, top salesperson in her major company. And she always said to me, Denise, make sure with any negotiation, it's not about the number. It's not about, what the outcome's going to be for the consumer. It's not necessarily about how you have shown how you can, get them on board for whatever it is you're selling. It's the relationship.
Mhm.
So she said, that is the key for negotiating, how you build that relationship. So the what I'm going to put forward to anybody who's listening today is, what do you do about your self-awareness from the moment that you are in connection with that company and want to apply, and then get into the interview, and now negotiating your salary? What are you bringing to the table? You're bringing your presence. You're bringing that whole self-awareness about the question set that's being put before you. You're absolutely building a relationship with them for every single moment of arrival, every single question, the way you answer. You're still building that rapport. You're still building that connection. And so just be aware of that you're actually making your negotiation easier if you build a great relationship during that whole process, because it will become harder if they're cold to you. It will become harder if that body language has still not settled and the confidence is still not yet showing, and that self-awareness and maybe shyness might be arising up a little bit, or uncertainty. But that self-reliance, confidence, it's all a balancing act at the end of the day. And some people say it's a drama. But actually, if you plan effectively, and I think Tara will tell you more about this, about the journey that she helps you get on as well in terms of mentoring. If you plan that journey well, including your planning your emotional intelligence along the journey, then that would absolutely set you up for negotiating well and effectively. And you know what? Even if the final answer is, actually, no, you can't have that salary, you've already planned out your midpoints. You've already planned out what you will not go below. So that's okay. And even if it means that you still end up not taking on that role for whatever reason, that's okay, because you've ticked the box in terms of practicing using your emotional intelligence to get that negotiation under the table and nailed. That's the key thing, nailing it.
I think that that's a really good connection to communication when you say build rapport and establishing a relationship with everyone who's been involved in the interview process, because effective communication, it is important in order to build that rapport or to build that relationship, and then it allows you to have the ability to then collaborate and to move forward, because again, these are individuals that you potentially may be working with for some length of time, if you decide that this is the right place for you, or if this is the right culture for you and the right offer. So it's really important to, and that falls for me under social skills, and all of it is EI, from a perspective of being able to communicate well in order to build that relationship. So I think that that's a great connector as we think about it, and it also goes back to, for me, to self-awareness, understanding how to manage your emotions during that time, because talking about salaries is sometimes can be a heavy conversation, particularly if you have anxiety about having that type of conversation, or unsure, or don't, you're not able to really be confident in what you're asking. So recognizing what that could be triggering, but also recognizing your own value from a self-awareness perspective, and how your EI or emotions will play in, whether they accept it and or if they don't. So being
Mhm.
composed throughout, regardless of either one, whether it's a yes or no, is really important. So just definitely be aware of that. And as you think about it, whether you work with a coach, it is absolutely pertinent that you also have a mentor, an advocate, or a sponsor that you can have those discussions with, because going through that interview process and offer and salary negotiations can be a lonely process if you don't have a person in which you trust enough to have a really transparent conversation about, am I asking for too much? And, am I really able to bring my skills, abilities, and experience or value to the role? Like I'm saying, did I sell myself short? What happened in that conversation? But being able to pick up the phone, have that conversation, or have a face-to-face conversation with someone is really important. As a coach, we help you with those things. We help you put a plan together on these. This is the kind of the journey that you should have based on where you are, because we meet you where you are in this process. However, if a coach isn't in your line, your line of sight, just definitely ensure that you have a mentor, advocate, or sponsor who in which you trust, and one that you can have that really raw and unfiltered conversation with.
Mm. And you've just reminded me of something else, Tara, before we wrap up. It's about actually sometimes I think the word negotiating sounds a little bit hard and maybe a little bit ruthless, maybe a little bit cold, but actually
Mhm.
it's just a conversation. It's just a different type of conversation that everybody wants to get and win.
Mm.
And if you see it as a conversation to just win rather than negotiating and it's hard and you're going to have to go back and forth, and sometimes I think we just get thrown by words sometimes, and it doesn't have to be that
That's true.
difficult.
That's
So
true.
if you're listening to this and you've got an interview tomorrow and you're having to negotiate your salary in that interview, just raise that self-awareness, walk in with presence, really be composed, as Tara mentioned, build that relationship from day one, and just have a conversation that's about money, and it's about winning, and it's about really offering yourself to deliver their products and services, and it's about them saying yes for you to deliver their products or services. So don't be swayed by that at all. Go for it.
Absolutely. So, when we think about closing out the session today, just keep in mind that EI is I would say it's really just a resource that you have in your pocket. You carry it with you every day. Sometimes you don't even realize that you're leveraging it or using it in conversations that you have. But at the end of the day, it really enhances your ability to reach a favorable outcome, to have the win-win, as Denise said, when you're having these types of conversations.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tara. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please remember to make sure that you subscribe, comment, and follow us. And join us next week for another session on emotional intelligence and career transition. Take care. Bye bye.